Hello, I'm Paul Jasa, Extension Engineer, University of Nebraska. I just planted, going down the old corn rows here, doing some no-till planting. I like going down the old rows because that's where last year's roots were. That's the most biologically active area in the field. That's also where they did not drive last year, so I'm not planting into a wheel track. That's going to be my best seed bed for planting. Now when it comes to no-till, as I'm going here into the corn stalks, I think of 4 steps. First step is going to be cut or handle residue. Second step is penetrate the soil, desired seeding depth. Third step, establish seed to soil contact. The fourth step, close the seed V. Now different brands of planters, drills, air seeders do these 4 steps in different ways, but if you think about those separate steps, you can evaluate your pieces of seeding equipment. That first step, cut or handle residue. I use my double disc opener in the planter just to simply cut the residue. I cut a slot down through the residue to put the seed in the ground. That seedling emerges up through that same slot. So here in this previous pass, the slot is cut, the residue got ran over, that seed will come up through that slot. Now some people like to put residue movers on to handle the residue, get it out of the way. Yes, it looks prettier the day you plant because they got that bare strip, but we got wind, blows some residue back. Now I've got an area that might be cooler and wetter compared to this where there is no residue. And worse than that, when the seedling starts coming up, there's no slot cut through that residue, and it may leaf out under the residue or may be otherwise slowed down. I actually increased yields when I quit running residue movers and let that seed come up uniformly through that slot. So again, the double disc opener, it's sharper than any cold in the market. That's how I cut the residue. The second step, penetrate the soil desired seeding depth. Desired seeding depth is set by your depth gauge wheels. Depth gauge wheels should be in firm contact with the ground. Now I get questions all the time, how much down pressure do I need? How firm in contact do they have to be? Stop with the planter in the ground like this, take hold of the depth gauge wheels and try slipping them. You should just barely be able to slip it. If when you pull on the wheels and you can't budge them a bit, you've got too much down pressure. That too much down pressure, as you open the seed V, you can create sidewall compaction. Now, conversely, if I can take this wheel and spin it freely, it's not truly gauging planting depth. Something's holding me out of the ground. I need to tighten my down pressure springs to get more down pressure. Now, as you tighten your down pressure springs to pull the row unit down, it's taking weight away from the toolbar. As such, I add water to my fertilizer tanks if I need some extra weight. If I'm putting on fertilizer, I might not let them go completely empty, might refill when they're, say, 1/4 full, still carrying some weight on that toolbar so the springs can act, and more important, carrying weight on the toolbar to keep my drive wheels in firm contact with the ground. On this planter, so I can run fertilizer down further if I need to, I actually put just a front end weight here. That cast iron weight then is additional weight that is here to keep these depth gauge wheels firm contact with the ground. Now, steps 3 and 4, I'm going to raise the planter up so you can see that a little easier. Alright, with the 4 steps of the planter process, we cut and handle the residue. That was done with my double disc openers. You can see them up front here, sharp, working together, cuts that residue nicely. Penetrate soil desired seeding depth. Down to the depth gauge wheels, make sure they're firm contact ground with down pressure springs, weight if you need it. Again, make sure they're down to desired seeding depth. Third step, seed to soil contact. Fourth step, close the seed V. In case I actually close the seed V instead of closing this here, and then firmed it down from the top to get seed to soil contact. Now there's other brands do it different ways. For instance, angle closing wheels, famous on John Deere, Kinsey, White. They'll get you seed to soil contact at the same time they're closing the seed V. But evaluate them in separate steps. One thing on this planter, I've added Keaton seed firmer. It's this white plastic tab down here. As the seed comes out of the seed V, it is pressed down to the bottom of the seed furrow, giving me some seed to soil contact. I like that, regardless of my brand of planter, because it gets all the seeds to the bottom of the seed V for uniform seeding depth for more uniform emergence. So whether it be a Keaton or a Shafford or some of the others on the market now, I like that to get the seeds to the bottom of the seed V to start the seed to soil contact. Now, in case I originally had smooth discs here, I put notch discs on. The notch disc gives me a little bit of loose soil there. That loosened soil is important when you're starting out and planting in wet conditions, especially if you got what we call a shrink swell clay. You may close the seed bee perfect today, the day you're planting when it's wet, but 3 days of hot, dry wind, that soil dries. As it dries, it shrinks, and that seed bee opens back up. By having these notch crumbler wheels here, it gives you some loose soil there, it's less likely to open back up. Likewise, on the planters with angle closing wheels, you can put one notched one on or two notched ones on to give you that loose soil so it's less likely to open back up. And also that little bit of tillage back here fractures the sidewall if you have some sidewall remaining. Now on the angle closing wheels originally gave you seed to soil contact and close the seed bee. If you put the notches on, it'll close the seed bee. You have to put on some sort of seed firmware to get you the seed to soil contact. Hay sites, close the seed bee and then finish it up, firming it down to finish the seed to soil contact. Again, when it comes to different brands, might do it different ways, but pay attention to those 4 steps. Any planter, any drill, any air seeder, cut and handle or handle the residue, penetrate soil desired seed depth, establish seed to soil contact, close the seed bee. The important steps for no-till.